All right, all right. How are we doing? Happy Monday. We're here for our industry update. It is Monday, and it's my favorite day of the week because we just kind of set the stage for what's to come. Um, my co host today is Taylor Wood. I don't see her on just yet, but she'll be here in just a second. Um, so here's the deal. A couple things I want to just remind everybody at the top of this is if you go to the website, therealestatestats.com, it takes you directly to all our charts that we chart. And I think it's a easy way to just keep yourself informed. And at the end of the day, that's how we all succeed in any kind of shifting market. It's just staying up to date on where the market's going. Um, it's one skill set, Taylor, to be able to price property and educate buyers and sellers on how the market's done in the past. Yet it's a whole nother level of skill set to be able to predict where the market's going in the future. And really, that's our attempt in getting the data in everybody's hands on these calls, is to give them the opportunity to predict where the market's going, so everybody is educated and the economist of choice. And at the end of the day, that's really the fiduciary duty of a real estate agent, is to give advice and opinions to your clients. And this is one of the big ways you can do that. Taylor, how are you? You look beautiful as always. All right, let's roll. So Fulton County, here we go. So right now there is, let me get it on the screen here, 801 active listings in Fulton County. That's such a good number compared to what we've been dealing with over the last 6 to 9 months. So we should be celebrating that. I remember being on this call talking about when the blue line and the yellow line are crossing, we're in this acute seller's market. And you can kind of see back here on the chart at the end of the year, those lines were crisscrossing, and we were begging for that moment in time when that blue line would separate from the yellow line. And now we've got it. We've got that separation. Now, I want to be careful. I want to make sure people don't translate that as we're in a buyer's market, because we're not. We're still in a seller's market, Taylor. And all that means is that the inventory is climbing. So the opportunity to actually show houses, get people into houses, it has created an opportunity for us. And we're going to talk here in a little while, but I'm pretty sure the number of offers has gone considerably down. And that's because of the gap between the yellow and the blue line. Now, obviously, great properties always sell for great prices, and we understand that. Yet, if you're playing the numbers game, we should have more inventory than we did 6 months ago. Anything you'd add, Taylor, just to that commentary?
Yeah, and as we're going to go into a little bit later on this call, we're going to see how the pendulum has kind of switched back into more of a balanced market, which I think is going to be really good for a lot of people. When we were at the Live Luxury event last week, we chatted about this too. And it's not so much that we are shifting in a bad way. It's more like we're shifting back to what we were before all the COVID craziness happened. So it's not that we're necessarily in a bad position. It's just we're getting more to where, we're normalized, and it's freaking people out because we had seen such great success and crazy numbers the last 2 years. And so people now think we're in this terrible downturn, and that's not the case at all. We're just getting back to normal.
Well, yeah, and if somebody's listening or on this call that got their real estate license during the pandemic, it's hard to get that perspective. Yet you need to take advice from the seasoned experts around you. But you're right. I mean, the pandemic created immeasurable excess in the real estate industry. And maybe I shouldn't say immeasurable, because we did measure it, but at the end of the day, it created a massive amount of excess of wealth, of real estate success over the last 2 years. And we're just correcting from that. We're correcting back to out of excess, back to normal. And you're right. The real estate market pre-pandemic was a good real estate market. And we're talking 2019, 2018. Those were great real estate markets, but they weren't the same real estate market in the end of 2019 and the most of 2020, right? Or 2021. I almost forget when the pandemic happened these days. It's been going on forever. But the pandemic, I would equate it to excess in our market. And then we're moving back and correcting from that excess. So you can kind of see it here. Obviously, 801 active listings in Fulton County, 343 pendings, 373 closings the last 7 days. If you kind of look across, that's still a healthy number. And I keep saying it on this call, like it's really hard to show on paper that the market's shifting. Yet, if I don't even remember who sings it, In the Air Tonight, like it's out there. We know it's out there. And we hear the velocity shifting more than the numbers. And velocity, I mean number of offers, number of showings, number of people calling, number of people walking into an open house. You know, all those numbers are shifting, and you'll see those numbers shift first before we'll ever see it on this sheet. But a couple of comments, just that big inventory number should be a breath of fresh air. You should look at that number as opportunity, as motivation to get your people out there. I think it's a really strong number. DeKalb County, we've got 525 active, 173 pending, still holding close to that 200 number, 216 closings. Maybe a little off, but not much. Cobb County, we've got 546 active, 250 pending, pretty healthy pending number, 276 closing, pretty consistent across the board in that high 200 range. So at the end of the day, I mean, I can jump over to Gwinnett, the other big county, 753, 264, 294. Still some pretty healthy numbers. And what would I hear in that message is, hey, real estate's still selling. The world hadn't fallen off a cliff. Like people are still buying houses. Yes, with the rates that are today, they're still buying houses, right? And I just see it as big opportunity if you can get your head wrapped around it. Now we're going to break that down even further. But before we do, I want to jump into a couple other topics. There is an article on Inman the last couple of days talking about how the MLS in the Northwest is changing the way they're doing business. And here is a result of the class action lawsuit around how buyer agent commissions are paid. Here's the deal and the commentary around this. It's not in our backyard today. Yet you need to shore up how you communicate and how you feel and how you present your value proposition on the buyer side of your business, because I do think this is going to be a chain event where MLSs are going to make changes. Here's kind of the bottom line of it is, oh, I had it highlighted somewhere. Here we go. The compensation the seller offers to the buyer broker will be prominently stated on the first page of the purchase agreement, meaning it's going to come front and center who and how the buyer agent agreement commission is being paid. Now, this is not our market yet I do believe buyer agency commission will be disrupted in the near future. I don't think it's a threat to our industry. I think it's a move to consumerism. Yet the saying of, hey, buyer, you don't have to pay anything to work with me. We're probably not going to say that in the future. We're going to say, listen, I work for blank, and this is how traditionally I get compensated, but you have to understand that we have a professional arrangement, and this is what I expect to be compensated to help you buy a house. And this is a reaction to the class action lawsuit that's going on in another part of the country around how buyer agent commissions are paid. And remember, this is our industry update. So we're talking to you about trends and things that are coming to the industry. It's not in Atlanta. It's not in any of our MLSs or our boards today, but I can almost promise you it'll be a huge talking point in the next 12 to 18 months. And it's about being prepared. That's all. Certainly happy to handle any comments or anything like that about it. If anybody has any today, or we can certainly, you can email me, and I'm more than open to have a conversation around it. Because I think it's just understanding our industry and where it's going. One thing that I like to keep my eye on is the 10-year Treasury note. And the 10-year Treasury note in best regard is our relation to where mortgage rates are going. And you can see we kind of peaked on the 10-year Treasury back in June. And that's when you felt that interest rate increase the most. And then they actually came down. But here's what I want everybody prepared for. Last week, or maybe 10 days ago, the inflation numbers came out in the US economy, and they were higher than anticipated. And because they were higher than anticipated, the expectation is that the Fed is going to get aggressive on squashing inflation, which translates to higher interest rates for our buyers. I expect the interest rates to go up. Remember, your job as a fiduciary is to be able to communicate to future buyers and sellers where the industry is going, not just where it's been. And so the communication is, yes, we anticipate interest rates to continue to go up. And I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing. I actually see that as a correction. So if you think about the pandemic years, Taylor, like how many people bought houses with like historically low interest rates and all this stuff? Well, it's the pendulum swinging, right? Like we're recorrecting for just crazy low interest rates. And you will see crazy low interest rates again at some point in the future. People will all refinance and all that stuff. But the short run of this is there's an anticipation of that rate going up. Any comments on that?
I think that keeping a watch on things is always a smart practice for anyone, whether you're an agent or whether you're just interested in keeping a pulse on what's going on in the world right now. So I think that keeping a close eye on this, so you can talk to your clients or you can talk to really anybody about it, because I think everyone should have at least some kind of working knowledge when it comes to being fiscally responsible and understanding what's going on.
There you go. All right, so let's talk about something else. And this is going to be a hot topic. And I'll put the link in the chat, and you can certainly just go to consumerfinance.gov and get this link. But it's called discount points, and it's going to be a hot topic going forward. And discount points is basically the buying down of the cost of money on the front end instead of paying it in terms over the long haul of the loan. For instance, if the lender's offering me 5.5% interest, I can buy that interest rate down at closing by paying discount points to maybe get a 4 7/8 interest rate or something. And then I got to look at the cost of buying that down versus the trade-off on it long-term, things like that. But I want to give you a perspective that I've been thinking about overnight. A year ago, I would buy a $500,000 house, $400,000 house. And how much over asking price was I having to pay for that real estate? 40,000, 50,000. So here's my question. That same house today, $400,000 or $500,000, I'm not having to pay $40,000 or $50,000 cash over asking price to get into the property. but I might have to take some cash and buy the rate down to feel good about my purchase. And by the way, I'm probably going to come out ahead. I'll probably spend less cash. So remember, we were having conversations with people just a year ago saying, hey, here's the reality of the market. You're going to have to put some cash down over asking to get into this property. And people were willing. And I want to reiterate that they were willing to do that. So now when somebody's getting a little nervous around an interest rate, I can have a conversation with them, widen the perspective and say, hey, listen, a year ago, I would be having a conversation with you around how much cash you were going to have in excess to get into a house. Today, I'm just having a smaller conversation with you around, hey, maybe we need to have a little extra cash to get you a rate you feel comfortable with. And that cash ultimately will give you a better perspective on how to buy that house today and feel good about it. And really, it's all in how you talk about it. And it's all in the perspective you're lending to your potential client. Matt, you put something in the chat. Why don't you share what this is?
Yeah, Brett. So this is actually from you. We just customized it to our brokerage and left a little spot where our agents could put photos. But I think it does a good job visually of telling the story where we're at currently. So social media, any potential buyer, I think right now there's a lot of noise out there that it's not a good time to buy, or interest rates are too high. We missed out on the opportunity. And this just really shows, from my perspective, at a $400,000 price point, what people were looking at, 18 months ago, less, and from now, to what they're looking at now, and how basically by buying down the interest rate and not competing as hard, you're actually, with this version, saving money and saving on monthly payment. So you can see there $14,000 to buy down a rate versus $40,000 to win the offer. Get your mortgage to about $150 less. And your interest rate is at 4.75. You got $31,000 in upfront savings. So this is just a visual. We can talk about it, but people love visuals and love breakdowns. And if you can get this in front of someone, maybe it sparks a conversation that you can break down how they're actually winning this market.
Yeah. And one thing on here is a year ago, the buyer was having to pay all the closing costs for a seller. Today, they're not necessarily having to pay all those closing costs because of the competitiveness of the industry has gone way down. So right there is 1% discount point you could allocate to this immediately.
Yeah,
right?
Brett. So I guess the real question too is, what's our MOFR around this? What can we say to attract people to raise their hand? And I think it's something along the lines of, how can you get a 4.75% interest rate and save money from it 18 months ago, a year ago, 6 months ago, to spark the conversation too, right?
Yeah. Basically it says, interested in how you could buy a $400,000 house today and have a lower monthly payment and save money compared to what you would have bought the same house for a year ago? Call me.
Love it. That's
right?
it.
Because here's where I think people are going to get hung up, and they're going to say, I don't want to pay that interest rate. But the truth is, if you widen the perspective and you show them in writing how it's not really about the interest rate, it's the whole picture, that whole picture creates action and opportunity for people to move forward. So it's really, really good. And I think this is probably the skill set we need to teach every agent out there selling real estate right now, is how to communicate around this and how to help them script and dialogue and objection handle around, I don't want to pay that interest rate today. Make sense?
I think having some of our seasoned agents really helping our newbies just getting into that conversation, because they haven't been around when these interest rates were really in this, where they're at. So they're seeing the 2s and 3s and they're thinking, oh my God, 6 and 7 is atrocious. Well, a few years ago they were, in the 8s. So just something to think about.
I mean, here's the most important thing, Taylor. let's get crazy and say rates are going to go to 10%. People will still buy real estate.
People were
People
buying
still
real
get-
estate
yeah.
at 18%.
When I got in the business, I was selling at 9%, and I can assure you, we never once mentioned interest rates to our clients. It never was even a discussion. It was what it was.
It was what it is. And here's the thing, people get divorced, unfortunately. People get married, fortunately. People have children, fortunately. People relocate for jobs. They outgrow their house. They downsize to move to nursing homes. They, lifestyle changes. There's all kinds of reasons people buy houses that's still going to cause them to buy and sell real estate, no matter what the interest rate is. And I want to make sure people hear that, because it's really important that agents don't think because rates are going up, we're going to fall off a cliff. We're not going to fall off a cliff. Now, the fluff buyer that's wanting to just go buy an extravagant house and move up, that might slow them down temporarily. But typically, if we can help position this conversation, we're going to be great, and we're going to find a way to thrive. And my biggest goal, Taylor, is our agents are more equipped to go win and compete in this market than any other brokerage out there, because we're having incredible conversations like this and positioning it. So Jane, you had a question about how the $14,000 was calculated. Here's what I will say to that just quickly, is there is no formula on discount points that I'm aware of. Every loan product and every lender treats them differently. So 14,000 doesn't always buy a rate from 6.5 to 4.75, but it'll probably get pretty doggone close. So some products, a discount point might buy a rate down 0.5 point. Some products, it'll buy it down 1/4 point. Some, it might buy more than that. So it really depends on the loan product that your client qualifies for, and the opportunity that agent is, the loan officer is offering them. So
Yep.
Unfortunately, there's no rule of thumb that we can specifically quote yet. This is why you got to have an incredible lender partner as part of your business, because they can help you position this all day long.
Yeah, Brett, I mean, that's exactly what we did. I would say just take that exact photo, send it to your favorite lender, ask them about the numbers, if it looks relevant, if it's close, and then go from there, because they're happy to help. They want to, but you can confirm with any lender of your choice.
There you go. All right. So discount points is going to be huge, guys. I can't reiterate that enough. The next article basically says seller's market, buyer's market, the pendulum is swinging. So Taylor, take it away.
So, I mean, I think we're getting back to more of a balanced market like we were talking about earlier. I don't think that it's really one way or another right now. Most people are saying that we're leaving our seller's market, going back into a buyer's market, but I honestly don't feel that we're one way or another. Like I said, I think that we're more balanced overall, and I think that people just really need to get more of an understanding of what that's going to mean for them.
Yeah.
And right now, I know that we've talked on these calls before about getting out of our laziness, if you will, and amping up more of what we used to do before. Houses were just flying off the shelves as soon as we whispered the word, we've got a listing. So really kind of plugging into your database, plugging into your presentations, getting more familiar with the market stats, just plugging into your resources, because right now people are seeing, like, if a house is on the market for a week, they think they're a failure as a real estate agent, and they're just going to go quit and go back to whatever they were doing beforehand. So just want to put some encouraging words, like, you are not a failure. You
Absolutely.
just tap into your resources more.
Go talk to anybody that's sold real estate for more than 2 years, and they'll set you straight really quickly.
Yeah.
Go talk to your office staff. They'll tell you all the other stories they're hearing about that are very similar to yours. If you feel like you're on an island right now, this is the time to engage. this is the time to engage in this conversation, your team meetings. You're going to feel more normal when you're hearing, yeah, I did an open house, only 3 people came in, or, hey, I put a listing on the market and it didn't show for 3 days. What's going on? You know, because those conversations are actually pretty normal conversations, and we would have laughed at them 3 years ago, to your point, Taylor. And now we're like, oh my God, the world's falling apart. Not really. It's just swinging, right?
And the sellers, I think, are still stuck in yesterday's mindset where they're like, okay, well, I can ask for whatever I want because anyone's going to buy it. Well, buyers are getting more selective because they can be, and they can ask for certain things to be done, whether it's repairs, whether it's buying down points, whether it's, you know, not having to pay for their seller's costs. So it's just one of those things where a lot of our agents are like, man, this is crazy that I'm having to deal with this. Well,
Yeah.
This is more of a normal thing that you're experiencing than you were experiencing 2 years ago. So just having that mindset, being like, okay, well, maybe it's me that needs to change and it's not my seller or my buyer. I need to change my mindset and I need to step up my game, essentially. So I think we could all take that into consideration, just step our game up.
Yeah, and I don't want to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. Like, it wasn't a big skill set to sell real estate in the last 2 years outside of knowing how to win multiple offers.
Mhm.
And prior to that, like, we actually had to market listings and have a marketing plan and know how to position properties to put them in front of as many buyers as possible. We haven't had to do that in a while. And all those skill sets are going to come back to the surface, 1, and 2, same comment, like, go talk to the seasoned agents in your office, engage your office staff, go to team meetings. That's where these conversations happen, and will get you where you need to go really quickly in that regard.
Mhm.
Taylor, one more thing I want to make sure I make mention of. If you go to YouTube and you search KW Heart of Atlanta, you'll find our YouTube channel, and you should click subscribe, because when you subscribe, you'll get notified every time we post a video. We have an entire playlist. Every time we do this industry update, we post it on YouTube. And if you miss one, it's a great place just to go catch it. And, you know, obviously some weeks are more than others, but we store every conversation we have on this YouTube page, whether it's our Mojo Mondays or our industry update. But I would just encourage everybody to go here and hit the subscribe button. I can pop this in the chat for everybody. But we just want to make sure we're that resource to help you get all the information to go be the expert, to go win in this market. And it starts in conversations like this. We have just a minute. Does anybody have any question on anything we didn't cover? Daring. Taylor, you and I are so good at this. We handled all questions.
So,
All right, guys, happy Monday.
bye, guys.